It is Sunday, August 9th, 2020, and this is your Three Gorges Dam update. We have 5 pieces of information to cover today, including seasonal monsoon floods inflict $20 billion economic toll across parts of Asia in July. Also, courtesy of Fortune.com, why China's catastrophic floods will barely dent its economy. Next, courtesy of ProjectSyndicate.com, China's Great Wall of Water. Also, by doing a bit of snooping around, I was able to find a YouTuber that was supposedly live streaming from the Three Gorges Dam on August 6, 2020. And last but not least, courtesy of Taiwan News, exclusive satellite images show Chinese cities flooded by Yangtze River. We also have some new Twitter footage playing in the background of today's video. Let's hop into it. A quick update on the status of the water level at the dam before we get started. The current water level at the Three Gorges Dam is 158.67 meters. The current inflow sits at 26,500 cubic meters per second, and the current outflow is listed at 31,600 cubic meters per second. It is worth noting that these numbers are released by the CCP, and it's good to see that at least by the numbers, the water level at the dam is slightly down, although it's worth noting that more rain is expected this week. And our first article is courtesy of Yahoo Finance. Seasonal monsoon floods inflict $20 billion economic toll across parts of Asia in July. And I wanted to include this article because it actually provides a slightly updated death toll. Aon, a leading global professional services firm providing a broad range of risk, retirement, and health solutions, today launches the latest edition of its monthly global catastrophe recap report. The report evaluates the impact of natural disaster events that occurred worldwide during July of 2020. The report reveals that persistent seasonal rainfall worsened the flood situation across China's Yangtze River basin during the month. And here's the part of the article that provides at least a slight update to the death toll, with the death toll since June 1st rising to at least 175 as extensive flooding affected the hardest hit provinces in Anhui, Hubei, and Chongqing municipality. The Ministry of Emergency Management noted that nearly 500,000 homes had been damaged or destroyed, and 5.2 million hectares of cropland affected. Direct seasonal economic losses were estimated at $22 billion, of which nearly $16 billion occurred in July. Most of the losses were anticipated to be uninsured. And our second article of the day comes courtesy of Fortune.com. Why China's catastrophic floods will barely dent its economy. The waters of China's mighty Yangtze River have inched upward in recent weeks, cresting banks, flooding adjacent land, and displacing millions of people from their homes. Parts of China's Three Gorges Dam, the world's largest hydroelectric power station built in 2003 to tame the Yangtze, were deformed by the surge. The dam's operators said it was on wartime footing as Three Gorges neared its maximum intake capacity. Highways and riverside pavilions in the city of Wuhan disappeared beneath the surging waters of the river, which divides the city in two. In some remote villages just south of Wuhan, local governments dispatched teams of rescuers on boats to pick up residents from their submerged homes. Fed by torrential rains, the flooding threatened to unleash humanitarian and economic catastrophe on the 480 million residents and sprawling metropolises of Shanghai, Wuhan, and Chongqing that sit in the Yangtze 700,000 square mile basin. This area accounts for 1/3 of China's annual economic output. Spring and summer rains in China pose annual flooding risk, costing the country an average of $10 billion per year in direct damages. The research firm China Water Risk estimates that China incurs more losses per year due to floods than any other country. China's most devastating flood occurred in 1998 when an overflowing Yangtze River killed more than 4,000 people and left 14 million more homeless. In 2016, Yangtze floods killed nearly 700 people and cost the country over $30 billion in damages. The 1998 disaster slashed 1.9% from China's annual economic output, while the 2016 flood saw GDP shrink by 0.30%. By comparison, this year's floods are expected to hurt the economy to a far lesser degree. This year's floods disrupted global supply chains to some extent, shuttering production lines and causing delays in various industries. The region is an important agricultural and construction hub of China, and it hosts factories for car manufacturers, medical suppliers, and steel producers. On July 16th, Reuters reported that the floods delayed shipments of personal protective equipment, or PPE, to the U.S. In late July, representatives from several shipping companies told Supply Chain Drive that some inland shipping terminals along the Yangtze River had been closed, and shippers on the coast were also operating at diminished capacity. As of now, the flood's harm to the region's supply chain appears limited. Li Yao, a fellow at the East Asia Institute at the National University of Singapore, says, "There's some slack in the supply chains of goods like laundry detergent, shampoo, and medical face masks. Factories along the Yangtze manufacture such products, but any interruptions they experienced can be made up by factories in other regions," she said. Renaud Angeron, a supply chain expert at China Manufacturing Consultants in Shenzhen, works with foreign companies that have factories on the Yangtze River. He says that car parts factories would be vulnerable to severe flooding problems, but as of now he hasn't heard of any major disruptions. He told Fortune that either manufacturers got lucky or the flooding was directed in non-industrialized areas. China's flood-fighting strategy is to discharge floodwaters to farmland as a means to secure cities and industrial areas, says Li. The farmers who tend to those crops, however, are a source of concern. Hundreds of thousands of them have been displaced by the floods and face enormous obstacles in recovering from the crisis. The rise in heavy rains due to climate change is testing China's dam strategy, which seems to assume that sheer force of hard labor and will can hold back the surge of water, said Judith Shapiro, an environmental politics professor at American University and author of China Goes Green: Coercive Environmentalism for a Troubled Planet. There's worry that the small dams that collapsed this season foreshadow what would be the big one, a failure of Three Gorges. The dam is a source of national pride, and so far it's weathered this year's crisis, but the cracks it showed mean Beijing may need to reconsider its strategy. Thank you for watching this video. If you're finding it informative, please consider giving the channel a subscribe. And our next article comes courtesy of Project Syndicate: China's Great Wall of Water. The East Asian monsoon season is pummeling China this summer. As of late July, flood alerts have been issued for 433 rivers, thousands of homes and businesses have been destroyed, and millions of people were on the verge of becoming homeless. The water level of Poyang Lake, China's largest freshwater lake, has risen to a record-breaking 22.6 meters, that's 74 feet. Prompting authorities in the eastern province of Yangtze, population 45 million, to issue wartime measures. Chinese citizens have not been threatened with devastation on this scale in more than 20 years, and this is likely just the beginning. Destructive floods are not new to China, which has been reckoning with its powerful rivers for thousands of years. Historically, political stability has often depended on government's ability to tame them. China emerged from its 1998 floods as the world's second largest economy, owing to its pursuit of modernization and advanced industrialization. One of the principal factors in its success has been its extraordinary stock of river infrastructure. Over the last 20 years, China's river systems have been manipulated in unprecedented ways, not only to avoid a repeat of 1998, but also to generate enough hydropower to sustain industrialization. As a result, water flowing in the Yangtze River today encounters a globally unprecedented cascade of dams and infrastructure. The crown jewel of this system is the Three Gorges Dam, the largest in the world, which is designed precisely to smooth the impact of a peak flood. In 2010, an unusually strong La Niña cycle in the eastern Pacific subjected the newly commissioned dam to its first big test. In July of that year, its reservoir accommodated an onrush of 70,000 cubic meters of water per second. The reservoir's water level rose by 4 meters, but it held, averting a disaster. The message was that China could now sleep soundly in the belief that the Yangtze had been tamed. But water management is always provisional because the risks are never eliminated. The reservoir behind the Three Gorges Dam is once again dangerously full, and the government has mobilized the military to reinforce levees that stand as the last line of defense for communities and businesses downstream. Although the Yangtze's flood control systems are unlikely to fail completely, Chinese officials are rightfully worried. Beyond the immediate physical effects, a significant failure would have severe, far-reaching political consequences. It's far from clear how things will play out in China. As Chinese officials navigate the crisis, even a near miss should prompt a reconsideration of their current approach to water resources management. The rest of the world should pay close attention to what is happening in the Yangtze River Basin. Riparian crises have a proven tendency to fuel social tensions and political instability, and the impact of a truly catastrophic flood in China would not affect that country alone. And quickly before our last article, I was doing some research looking for information to include in today's video when I came across a YouTube channel titled The J.O. Nation. His most recent video is titled At the Three Gorges Dam Update. It was live streamed from the Three Gorges Dam on August 6, 2020. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check it out. Moving on. And our last article of the day comes courtesy of Taiwan News. Exclusive satellite images show Chinese cities flooded by Yangtze River. In the wake of some of the worst flooding China has witnessed in decades, both above and below the Three Gorges Dam along the Yangtze River, Taiwan News has obtained satellite images showing the true extent of the floodwaters in major cities during the river system's #2 flood of the year. The cities pictured in the satellite images include Chongqing, which sits at the headwaters of the dam on the Yangtze River. On July 15th, tremendous downpours began causing severe flooding across the city, with 188,025 people in 19 districts and counties affected, as well as 1,000 houses destroyed and 6,000 hectares of cropland inundated. Wuhan is another city also included in the satellite photos. Wuhan sits on the Yangtze River below the Three Gorges Dam and thus is at the mercy of the colossal dam's floodgates. Tremendously elevated water levels seen in Wuhan in late June caused residents to suspect the Three Gorges Reservoir has been kept low by unleashing the sluice gates out of fears that this summer's floods upstream would overwhelm the mammoth showpiece project. And the final series of before and after photos show the city of Nanchang, which sits on Poyang Lake. Poyang Lake is China's largest freshwater lake, which is situated on the lower reaches of the Yangtze River and is affected by the outflow of the Three Gorges Dam. In previous years, the dam has been blamed for causing Poyang Lake to shrink up and almost completely evaporate in 2016. And now let's have a look at the satellite images. I think that's a good place to wrap up today's video. I hope that you found it informative, and check back soon for more content.